Friday is huge. Friday, second scrimmage, right, wrong, indifferent. You're going to have to pare down those reps. You're going to have to pick a guy or two guys and move forward because, again, the season's getting closer, and those guys need all the reps they can get.
Well, I think what's going to be fascinating about Friday and the feedback we're going to hear on Friday, everybody's going to want to know who performed the best, and obviously that's the overarching storyline. But my thing is, how do they divide the reps up Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, has George done enough that you're going to give him a long, hard look, or are you going to give him a legitimate look with some number ones, throwing to number one receivers and, with the, quote, starting offensive line? Are you going to give him some first-team reps against the first-team defense? I think that's heading into the scrimmage. I think that's the big question right now is where does that shake out? Because that says a lot about what this thing looks like in terms of whether, even if George is not the starter, and again, I don't think he will be, is he the number two? Or is he going to be clearly the number 3 non-factor guy? I mean, those are things that I think are going to be interesting to see how it develops this week. I know this about George. What's fascinating is Joey Aguilar is 6 years older than George MacIntyre is, which is kind of crazy in a room. At that age, 6 years is a lifetime. I mean, a lifetime of living. 24 to 18 is vastly, vastly different, right? But I do think even though George Robb is kind of that baby-faced, all-American kind of looking guy, I think he's got some competitive in him that probably people don't realize. And I think he probably sees a bit of a window right now, and I'm curious to see how he attacks this week if he feels different, right? I mean, if you go into that first scrimmage and think, I'm going to get a couple of series here, we'll see what this looks like, but you get more than you thought you were going to get, and you perform well coming out of it, how do you attack this week if you're George MacIntyre? My guess is he is after it this week and continues to try to put the pressure on those guys because he's got nothing to lose. Yeah. He's not supposed to win it. The pressure is really on Merklinger more than anybody else.
I would agree with that. And how many of these kids that we talk to right now, Eric? I know you. I mean, and you stand beside each other a lot in those interviews, that are going to be sophomores, right, or going to the second year. Jordan Ross, or whoever. Just man, I didn't really take it all that serious last year, but this year it's way different. I'm locked in. Blah blah. George MacIntyre is locked in right now. He doesn't have that freshman mindset, and I don't blame a lot of those guys. I mean, I'm not saying Jordan, and Jordan Ross is just what I remember. There's been like 6 or 7 of those kids, say the same kind of thing. But my point being, George MacIntyre is not your typical freshman.